Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching Analysis, and with me today on the program is Libros Oshoma, who is a legal practitioner. Libros, look at what is happening in Ondo State. There you have another senior advocate of Nigeria who used to be the chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association and used to be at the forefront of pushing for the enthronement of democracy and an enforcement of the rule of law in this country. But you hardly can say what is happening in Ondo State. It's anything but enforcement. I mean, the rule of law, if you like. The rule of the Constitution is very clear. When a governor is incapacitated or is ill, he's supposed to hand over to his deputy. It's either, of course, the state executive removes him if he's incapacitated. But if he's not incapacitated but ill, then he should hand over to the deputy, who should act as governor. But it appears this simple rule of the Constitution, if you like, is difficult to execute. And that's what we're seeing. The president has had to intervene in this, and everyone had thought the president was going to say, look, follow the rule of law. But you look at the solution that the president has provided, I don't think it's helped matters at all, because as we speak today, there's no acting governor in Ondo State. You still have the deputy governor who's been asked to continue to act, and the governor is nowhere.
Deji, let's look at this issue from various perspectives. You will find out that it is, first and foremost, we do not beam our searchlights on the activities of our various state governors. Our various state governors act more like emperors than governors. There's another area we also need to focus on is how are our House of Assembly members selected and nominated before election. The tendency that, oh yes, you want to vote in members that will support the candidate or the governor, and most times fall flat on his face with happenings like this, where the State House of Assembly is incapacitated, they are unable to do anything. It's almost as if they are an appendage of the state executive. And then thirdly, this is not democracy. You'll find out that when we talk about democracy, over time we say we're practicing democracy, but what we have going on as democracy is the rule of might, the rule of persons in place of the rule of law. So that's why in 2010, you remember the same Akeredolu as president of the Nigerian Bar Association, admonishing and advising then the late Maru Musa Yar'Adua, God bless his soul, to relinquish power, as power is not hereditary, or it is not. If you're incapacitated, you should do the honorable thing. But unfortunately, today the shoe is right on Akeredolu's feet. Initially, he had relinquished power. He has transmitted power to the deputy governor when he went on medical leave. But because of rumor, in Nigeria, in Nigerian political circle, rumors thrive a lot. And so because of rumor and backbiting, all of these things are playing out now, and the man is incapacitated. He's in Ibadan. And I learned also one of the reasons he's in Ibadan is because of the UCH in Ibadan, because of the ailment that he's presently, going through. And in the case of emergency, so it will be easy to rush him to UCH, which, and also it brings me to the fore, the fact that there should be social amenities in every state of the federation. Yes. If he had, assuming he had, a UCH kind of hospital in Makure, he wouldn't need to go sit down in Ibadan, And then lastly, the intervention by the Mr. President also wouldn't have been necessary if indeed we were practicing democracy. In the absence of relinquishing power or transmitting the authority to govern to the deputy governor, the State House of Assembly would have simply activated the instrumentality of the law for a medical report to check whether the governor is fit to carry on, even if it's fit. But staying outside of the state capital for this long, for me, it's not democracy.
Of course, we're also talking
I also learned that I don't know how true, one of the recommendations of Mr. President in resolving the dispute is that the deputy governor should sign an undated resignation letter in the event that they feel that he is going overboard. It can be tendered. Really, this day and age, I think it is laughable. It makes us a laughing stock just for us to insist on that democratic tenets and principles should be upheld. We now begin to, go into such absurdity. It is
do you know what,
absurd,
Libros?
and I think
Initially I had doubts over that resignation
citizens,
letter issue, but
sorry,
then
quickly.
I started believing it when the Speaker of the State House of Assembly came to affirm it, that there was indeed a letter like, or there is indeed a letter like that. And then the Secretary to the State Government, I mean, the lady you just saw in our video, they also affirmed it. And the question is, why would the president ask the deputy governor to sign an undated resignation letter? Why was it difficult for the president to simply say, you know what, that's, if at all, the president, because constitutionally speaking, I don't think it was necessary for the president to intervene. But it's a good thing he intervened, because he just could not have folded his arms and allowed things to go awry in that state. But why was it difficult for the president to say, you know what, deputy governor, go and take over as acting governor pending the full recovery of the governor? Why is it difficult? Why is it such a difficult thing to do?
Deji, you know, the president as a governor also had impeached his deputy governors, impeached 2 deputy governors. So he understands the intrigue of power. And if you remember also, in Adamawa State during Murtala Nyako's travail, and the purported resignation of the former governor, I've forgotten his name now, and eventually, I think it was Festus Keyamo that handled that matter up to the Supreme Court, and the court heard that since the letter was not addressed to the appropriate authority, that resignation could not stand. I think in the light of trying to find a middle ground, because here, we do not insist on the position of the law, but middle ground to resolving political issues. You know, what do you call it? The FCT minister, former governor of Rivers State, here's some wicked cause, Ihendeba. You know, you give a little here, you give a little here. So for the Akeredolu faction, so that you do not think that the deputy governor will get in there and instigate impeachment against you, okay, hold a resignation letter, you know, in his stead. So if he goes out of bounds, you can throw in that resignation letter. But how well that resignation letter can be...
I was going to ask you, do you think such a resignation letter can actually be enforced in a court of law? Does it have any,
also will become
I don't know how you want to call it, any legal value, if you like?
That's what I'm saying. So that resignation letter also, even if at the end of the day it is thrown in, it can be called to question. The legality or otherwise of it can be called to question. Since now everybody's talking about the fact that there is an undated resignation letter, will it take effect from the day it is dated? You know, so those are the issues that parties will look at that time. But like you said, if truly we practice democracy and we insist on them upholding the rule of law, all this wouldn't have gotten to this stage. The president wouldn't have even talked about intervening. And then lastly, there wouldn't be need for somebody to write a resignation letter. What would have been you know what, go do the right thing, send a letter of leave to the State House of Assembly, and then let the deputy governor act in your state. And then if you ask me morally, what does Akeredolu want? Now he's incapacitated. It is the things that he's doing in the latter days that people will remember, and not those great strides and not those great achievements of his as a senior lawyer, as a president of the NBA. People will remember all of those things. They will remember him for being in office while he's incapacitated. What does he want? If it's money, he has it. If it's achievement professionally, he has achieved it. Politically, also has become a governor. So I think he should write his name in gold in the sand of time by following the law, sending a letter to the State House of Assembly, or simply resigning to say, you know what, I feel the need to step down because I can no longer do this. But there are also rumors that his son and his wife, who want to consistently maintain power, are the ones insisting that he should stay put. I don't know how true this is, but I think the man is lucid enough to maintain that integrity that he's been known for, rather than hold on tenaciously and slavishly to power, despite the fact that he might just slip away anytime.
Now, the provision of the Constitution, I don't know if it has changed, is that when you have a situation like this, where a governor is incapacitated, the State Executive Council, in the case of the federal government, of course, the Federal Executive Council is supposed to come together, meet, and then decide if by a vote of 2/3 they decide that the governor is incapacitated and cannot carry out his function now. Then that governor, I think the process goes on to the State House of Assembly to remove him. So that begins the whole process of removal. But you look at that provision, do you think, do you think people who work for the governor, people he's appointed as members of the cabinet, will be that bold enough? Because we saw this exact thing play out during the period of Umaru Yar'Adua until
yes,
the late
like
Dora
I said,
came out to
like
speak up. But we saw that drama play out, and it's exactly what we're seeing play out in Ondo State. We also saw it in Taraba State as well. So you look at that provision. Do you think it's time we probably amended certain sections of our constitution that deals with removal, especially that part now that demands that ask the State Executive Council now to begin the process of removing the governor in a case where the governor becomes incapacitated?
Yeah, like we argued during the case of Taraba and Umar Musa Yar'Adua's tenure, we started the same round of argument again. Is it possible for people selected and picked by the governor, who the governor believes is doing a favor, and especially also given the fact that here we see political powers as opportunity to come chop. So people who have been called to come chop, wouldn't Ondo people say they are ingrate by being those that will instigate the fact that the governor is incapacitated? Here we are highly religious, even though we are less godly. So it is difficult for those people to initiate the process of removing the governor from office by saying he's incapacitated. Didn't you even see the visit of the Southwest governors to the Ondo State governor in Ibadan? I also expected that they will talk about these weighty matters of violations of the Constitution, and none of them talked about it. So that area of the Constitution, so many other areas in the Constitution need serious attention and amended to modern day reality. And then also even the way commissioners are selected, the way commissioners functions. You hardly hear even these people talk about these things that is playing out. And the next thing, when you talk about it, they'll tell you won't understand, as if, once you're in political office, the understanding becomes very different from that of the average day Nigeria, distinct from what he's saying. So these are the many issues that are begging for attention in our constitutional journey. And I think that truly it is not the state executive that should initiate, such a move. It should rest squarely, with the State House of Assembly. And the State House of Assembly members at this stage also become so incapacitated when, in most cases, they are also handpicked and selected by a governor.
Because that's exactly what it is. I mean, the state lawmakers are refusing to execute their responsibilities. As a matter of fact, at some point, they were going after the deputy governor to get him removed from office. So the question is, when you're faced with this kind of situation, what happens?
So you now begin to ask yourself, are the state lawmaker upholding the laws that they made, or they are going against the same law that they have made? You have a sitting deputy governor, you have a sit-tight president who is incapacitated medically. Nobody prays to be sick, but when it gets to this stage, the next thing is, look, I need to go take care of my health. But no, rather than the State House of Assembly focusing on the governor who is incapacitated, they are focusing on impeaching a deputy governor who is not incapacitated from acting. So that's why I told you that the way some of these members are selected, coupled with the general attitude of Nigerians, the way we behave, some of their constituent members will see them as ingrates. Who knows, some of them might even have been nominated or supported by the governor in their political journey. Maybe it was the governor that selected some of them, financed or bankrolled, bought forms for them. Like Nyesom Wike said, in Rivers State, he bought forms for everybody. Nobody's asking which money he's used in buying the forms. So maybe the governor had bought forms and even financed their campaign. And then you now ask them to go and impeach that same man. They will be called ingrate even by their constituents, even by their family members, even by the rest of us who should be insisting on the upholding the rule of law. So that is where the blur line between morality in Nigeria, religiosity, and the law, becomes very, very faint and difficult. That's why it's so difficult to ask for justice, uphold the rule of law in our governance. And yet we turn around to complain about the attitude of our political office holders.
Well, we'll just wait and see, because since the lawmakers have chosen not to do anything and they want things to remain like this, it is the people that suffers. Because whether we like it or not, there's no governance.
Look at it right.
And I know this because that's the state I come from. And it's something I know for sure, that there's no governance, no solid governance in that state as we speak.
Deji, quickly, look at it from the top. The president will expect him to insist that the law must be complied with. No, he's looking for a political solution, a middle ground, a hindeba attitude. The State House of Assembly doing nothing, rather than chasing the man who is insisting that the law should be upheld. The state executive also are all there, incapacitated and doing nothing, and rather, will ask the entire Ondo people to pray. Yet, the Ondo people, if you do something today against the general belief of, religiosity, they will tell you are an ingrate. This man supported you, or he did this, he did that. So the crisis we are in is not just, it's an orientational crisis. We all need to change. So that come rain, come shine, even if it's my father that is involved, I should insist that the right thing must be done. And that's the way development and governance can be enhanced in a society like ours.
Liberal Soshoma, legal practitioner, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.